Alright, guys. So, the other day, I started to watch this video from Lewis Black. Okay. Now, before we get into this, I have to let you guys know I like Lewis Black. He is a really good comedian. Okay. He's really funny. A lot of things he says I think is logical, like they make sense. Okay. Except for this, what he's getting ready to say. So I'm actually going to try and show you guys exactly why he's wrong about this. Okay. So you can use a hammer in multiple different ways. You can use it to build and create. You could use it to fix things. You could also use it as a weapon. If we think about it like this, if a really serious crime happens, and let's say they use the chainsaw, right? Like Chainsaw Massacre, something like that. It's just something horrific, right? Is anyone going to go on the news the next day and say, we got to ban these chainsaws? These chainsaws are dangerous. They have to go. What about when someone purposefully hits people with a car? Is anyone going to go on the news the next day and say, we got to ban all these cars? No. But when it comes to firearms, though, for some reason, let's blame it on the firearms, inanimate objects. Okay, let's blame it on those and say, yeah, those are the problem. If we didn't have, you know, all those guns, then we wouldn't have these problems. Which is just a moronic thing to say, right?
If you don't win, that was rigged, you. Okay? And there I am being inflammatory.
This could all go horribly wrong at any minute.
Hello there, and welcome to the 182nd edition of Lewis Black's Rantcast, entitled The United States of Insanity. Or, The Weird Keeps Getting Weirder. That may have been a better title. I don't know. Any number of titles might have worked. You call this an election? Is this really what we should be doing? What is the matter with us? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Really, how is this happening? Huh? Have we lost all sense of proportion when it comes to the way in which we do something that every other country is able to do without madness? And we are really showing the world how democracy works. This is the way we do it. I'm responding to what happened last night, Saturday night. I had finished my Rantcast, and I thought it was pretty dandy. I actually had listened to it and did some putting together some touches here and there to make it, I thought, better than it was. And then I turned on the TV and realized, no, of course not. Can't really talk about a lot of the stuff I've talked about because all of a sudden what I was talking about didn't really have anything to do with what was going on anymore because everything had changed again. It had changed again. We cannot find a way to get beyond rattling our cages, and our cages are definitely rattling as our brains are rattling, as we are all rattling, as the whoever this person was kind of wandered out of the darkness and the abyss and went, hey, let's see how we can fuck it up. This is quite simply what happens when you combine too many guns. Yeah, too many guns. Yeah, too many guns with inflammatory rhetoric, and make inflammatory rhetoric kind of like part and parcel with our daily routines. And it is beyond belief. And
So, the first part, too many guns, yeah, It's bogus. Okay. The second part, I mostly agree with him on. Okay. So baseless inflammatory rhetoric, I say that has to stop. We got to chill. But then again, I would say, like, censorship is not the answer. Okay. The only thing censorship is going to do is make people start to trust whatever is being censored. Okay. You know, it's being censored, so the elites are trying to censor it because the elites know they're trying to tell the truth. They don't want them to tell the truth. Okay. So censorship isn't going to do anything but create more distrust, right, for themselves. And when you start trying to control narratives, you know, regardless of whether you're doing it for the right reason or not, you know, at the end of the day, you're only doing more harm than good. I think an appropriate response, you know, if you're the media, if you're someone who's in a position to know, like, hey, someone's, spewing out inflammatory nonsense that's just going to get people riled up for nothing, counter that with facts and logic, right? Don't go on a rampage and try to censor every bit of it, okay? That's not going to work.
This is what happens. And this is why I believe it is a complete madness for the state of Alabama to now be selling ammo in vending machines. Okay, now you're normalizing it to the point of, boy, when I get home, I need to pick up some chips, a little soda, and some bullets. Yeah, because those always make for a nice dessert. Is there any reason at all, to sell ammo in a vending machine? And they of course say, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll have what is it, photo identification, whatever the fuck they call that now. We can visual recognition, I guess." Please, I wish I could trust the state of Alabama with that type of technology. I don't. All right. When you decide that you're going to put ammo in a vending machine, I cannot trust your intelligence, nor in any way or shape or form trust you in terms of practically much of anything. I mean, there's just no reason. And it is that type of normalcy that created the situation, in part with the inflammatory rhetoric, that is put us where we are now. And
if they were selling guns out of a vending machine, okay, I could start to understand a lot more. Like, this is a big problem. So my brother actually got me into using this thing and showed me a lot of, like, how it works. And one thing I like about it is it searches across multiple different websites. Okay. So look, this channel is called Researching with Will. And the reason why it's called that is because you guys are researching with me. Okay? So you watch the video, you see all the points I'm going to lay out for y'all. You guys put in the comments, and then in future videos, as I go through and read your comments, if something makes sense, then that will help to drive future conversations. Okay, so even though we're not doing it live, it's still going to work almost the same way, just not as good. Okay, because you're not going to get an immediate response. But through, the comment section and having discussions with me, you actually can, have a really big influence on the channel going forward. Alright guys, so I had to make some adjustments because the way I had it before wasn't actually working. Okay. How many guns are sold in the United States each year? Million firearms are sold annually. Now, anyone from that side, what they're going to argue is, that is an alarming amount, right? That this is a scary, scary thing, right? It's actually not. I'm getting ready to show you guys why. How many gun-related crimes are there each year in the United States? Now, of course, it is going to be, a pretty high number, right? But let's just see what it says. The number of gun-related crimes in the United States varies from year to year, but recent data gives a general idea of the scope of the issue. According to the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program and other sources, violent crimes in recent years, there have been around 10,000 to 15,000 homicides annually, with a significant portion involving firearms. So that's really interesting. So even out of the total number of homicides right there, 15,000, even all of those aren't firearm related. A significant portion are, but not all. How many crimes are committed with legally purchased firearms each year? Estimating the exact number of crimes committed with legally purchased firearms each year can be challenging. Studies and reports suggest that a substantial number of gun crimes involve firearms that were legally purchased at some point. So that right there is definitely not, what I was expecting, right? But like I said, we're doing research together. I am learning as I'm going along, okay? But I would also say that I think the biggest problem is people buying weapons on the street, okay? So I would think that's the biggest thing we should be worried about, right? And it just goes to show that, we can pull up the stats for legally purchased weapons, but, any stats relating to unlawful purchases, right? Those stats are going to be a lot less accurate. And I think really the biggest takeaway here is up to 30 million firearm sales each year, and about 15,000 gun-related crimes happen each year. Okay? How many gun-related crimes are committed each year in Texas? Now, I've just also did a little bit of research in between pauses, okay? So I've just found out that Texas ranks as the state with the highest gun sales each year. Okay, so that explains why we're looking at Texas first. And then here in a minute, I'm going to ask the same question, but for a state with the lowest amount of gun sales. The number of gun-related crimes in Texas can vary from year to year, but recent data provides a general sense of the scale. Years, Texas has experienced several thousand gun-related aggravated assaults annually. The specific numbers can fluctuate based on various factors. A significant portion of homicides in Texas involved firearms in 2021. Alright guys, so I have just did some more research, and it says Hawaii typically has the lowest number of gun sales each year. This is due to its relatively small population, strict gun control laws, and geographical isolation. So then, of course, we looked for how many gun-related crimes are committed each year in Hawaii. So ultimately for this, I'm not thinking it has anything to do with gun control laws reducing anything. I think it has more to do with the population being smaller. So I'm kind of thinking that might be, the next avenue we should take here, right? Maybe comparing two states that are both high in population, and one being, with a low amount of gun restrictions, and the other one being high amount of gun restrictions. Okay. And really, if anything, I would think the state with the most gun restrictions, that's going to be your high target area for gun-related crimes. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and search another thing here, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can give some credibility to that statement. How many gun-related crimes are committed in gun-free zones? Gun-related crimes in gun-free zones can be a complex topic, as the term encompasses a variety of settings such as schools, certain public areas, and private properties, where firearms are restricted. And what I would say here, right off the bat, if these crimes were committed in areas that weren't gun-free zones, I think the carnage would obviously be a lot less. Okay, now we're not going to try and verify any of that right now, but that is the avenue I'm wanting to take. Okay. Overall, statistics of gun-related crimes in gun-free zones are not always readily available. A significant portion of gun-related crimes in gun-free zones occurs in schools. The relationship between gun control laws and gun-related crimes is complex and the subject of ongoing debate among researchers, policymakers, and advocates. Here's an overview of what research and evidence suggest. Evidence supporting gun control, reducing gun-related crimes. International comparisons. Countries with stricter gun control laws generally have lower rates of gun violence. Now, right off the bat, what I said about Hawaii, right? We got to bear that in mind. I don't know if they're going to address that in this study or not. If they don't, what I have to bring up is the population size, right? Research in the U.S. has shown mixed results, but some studies indicate that states with more stringent gun control laws often see reductions in certain types of gun violence. Assault weapons bans. Some research suggests that bans on certain types of firearms, such as assault weapons, are associated with lower rates of mass shootings and firearm-related homicides. And I can tell you right now, the people that conducted this research and came up with that analysis, they are not gun experts, okay? Reason being, this phrase right here, assault weapons, okay? Yeah, that's not an actual thing. And I only know that because I watch gun experts, okay? And I already know, like, Colin the War and anyone who knows anything about guns, like, they're going to immediately discredit this entire study right here, okay, about assault weapons, right? Um, and I think what they mean to say is fully automatic weapons. One of the problems with that, setting aside the errors of calling them assault weapons, okay, as far as I'm aware, most mass shootings are not done with fully automatic weapons, which would be what they're trying to refer to, okay, but like I said, they don't know what they're talking about. So let's just think for a moment that magic is real, right? You ban fully automatic weapons, and then all of a sudden, you can't go on the street and just go ahead and buy one, right? They don't have them either. Okay, so magic is real just for a moment, hypothetical. Guess what? They'll use something else. There's other types of weapons they can use. Okay? I distinctly remember someone that was using a sniper rifle. And in many cases with that, you could be a lot more dangerous than someone with a fully automatic rifle. Okay? Because with a sniper rifle, you look at Full Metal Jacket. Look how freaking dangerous that sniper was. Okay? If someone does that, they don't all of a sudden get on the news the next day and say, we need to ban sniper rifles. These two things don't track here. Okay? They will use something different. See, look at this is what bothers me right here. Gun control measures are often part of a broader public health approach to reducing violence. Strategies such as safe storage laws and restrictions on firearms access for high-risk individuals can contribute to lower rates of accidental shootings and domestic violence involving guns. But look, domestic violence not involving guns is probably just as deadly as the ones that do involve guns, and are probably even more common. You think about how many households have guns in them, right? Compare that to how many households have knives in them, right? Okay, so that whole first section there was all like in favor of gun control. So then this section here, evidence questioning the impact of gun control. So let's see if this is, grounded in reality a little bit more. Hopefully it is. Some studies have found that gun control laws do not always lead to significant reductions in overall crime rates of gun violence. And that makes sense because magic isn't real. Okay? Just because you ban a certain type of gun or restrict certain types of people from obtaining firearms, guess what? They can still get them. So the only thing you're doing is making it a little bit more difficult for them, right? Because they can't just go into a store and buy one. But the other side of that is you're making it harder for law-abiding citizens to get them, right? Which is like the biggest problem there. If a lot more law-abiding citizens have firearms, there's going to be a lot more people there that are ready to defend, okay, themselves and everyone else around them. I am willing to bet if a gun control advocate was ever in a situation where they faced a mass shooter and someone in the crowd had a firearm and took out the assailant before they was able to harm anyone, I can't imagine that gun control advocate continuing to advocate for gun control, because they would then have seen the positive effect of civilians carrying firearms. The effectiveness of these laws can vary depending on how they are implemented and enforced. Crime displacement. There is a concern that stricter gun laws may lead to crime displacement rather than a reduction in overall crime. For example, criminals might resort to other forms of violence or illegal means to obtain firearms. Exactly what I just said. Okay, you're going to increase the amount of unlawful sales, which are not tracked. Enforcement challenges. The effectiveness of gun control laws also depends on enforcement. Inadequate enforcement or loopholes in laws can diminish their potential impact on reducing gun-related crimes. Yeah, this right here goes more towards the other side, right? Because this seems to suggest if enforcement was better and there were less loopholes, then gun control would be more effective, okay? Which I wholeheartedly disagree with. Inadequate enforcement and loopholes are not the problem. The problem is you're taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. That's one of the biggest problems. The other problem is, even setting that part aside, you're not actually hindering their ability to obtain firearms. Because, like it just said right up here, they'll get them through other means. So you're not actually stopping them. Comprehensive approach. Gun control measures are often more effective when combined with crime prevention strategies such as mental health services, community service, and economic development efforts. So why is economic here? Well, it's pretty simple, because of poverty. When poverty goes up, so do crime rates. So if you really wanted to reduce gun-related crimes, you should be concerned about the economy and concerned about poverty rates. If you pump more money into communities that are struggling, okay, and providing health services and providing, counseling and providing, a lot of different services that can, get people to where they can have alternatives instead of turning to crime. That's what you really want. All this talk about gun control, restrictions, and all that stuff, it is pointless, right? Just think about it like this. You go into a community and you say, there's a lot of crime in this community, right? Instead of focusing on the poverty, instead of focusing on lack of jobs, instead of focusing on all these other things, availability of jobs, right? Because what I just say, high poverty rates equals high crime rates. That's going to be equaling a lot of people with criminal records. And a lot of jobs, employers are automatically going to disqualify people with, certain types of charges on their record, if they've been to prison, anything like that, they're going to get turned down immediately. Okay? So that's another problem they have to start working on fixing. If they want to make things worse for that community, then, yeah, let's just go harder on the crime, send people to prison for longer. And then what happens is you're creating more broken homes. You are, their children is going to turn to the streets because, well, guess what? Their father's gone now. Yeah, being tough on crime is not the solution, right? I understand the you commit violent crime and everything else has to be punished and everything else, but at the same time, there are things they could do before someone gets to that point, before they're actually committing violent crimes. Okay. Local context. The impact of gun control laws can vary based on local context, including existing crime rates, socioeconomic conditions, and the specific design of the laws. So this one, socioeconomic conditions. I'm actually not familiar with socioeconomic. In the dictionary it says socioeconomic, relating to or concerned with the interactions of social and economic factors. So essentially what I think is talking about is poverty rates and socioeconomic factors affect one's ability to engage in health activities, afford medical care and housing, and manage stress. Employment provides income which enables access to housing, education, child care, food, medical care, and other needs. So basically, what we're getting to right now is that social programs, help for needy families, getting people back to a sense of, normal everyday life instead of, feeling the constant pressure and anxiety of not knowing if you're going to be able to eat the next day, not knowing if you're going to have, rent when it's due, not knowing if you're going to have electric the next day, water, all these other things. That amount of pressure can build up and cause people to go commit crimes, right? And eventually commit really, really horrible crimes depending on how desperate they are. Now, my opinion is before it gets to that point, whenever someone gets in trouble for low-level crimes out of desperation, that's a cry for help. That's a point where, the state or something could step in and say, let's start to correct these problems now before it gets really bad. But instead they only focus on, what happened. They focus on the fact that you did it. They don't care about why. And it's just about punishment. Nothing is really about correction or rehabilitation. It's not about any of that stuff. They like to call it that, but that's not what it actually is. If it was, it would be a lot more successful. And I think that's, a topic for another video, right? The effectiveness of corrections facilities. Okay. So for the conclusion, overall, there is evidence suggesting that certain gun control measures can contribute to reductions in gun-related crimes. The effects are not always straightforward or uniform. The effectiveness of gun control policies often depends on a combination of factors, including how they're implemented, enforced, and integrated with crime prevention strategies. For a nuanced understanding, it is beneficial to consider a range of studies and reports from credible sources like public health researchers, criminologists, and policy analysts. So look, if you notice, the first section here, what they ignored was all the reasons why these crimes happen. They only focused on restrictions, they focused on this, they focused on that. They didn't focus on actually fixing the root of the problem. Okay? You know, the strategy that they implement is like someone getting shot and saying, let's keep putting band-aids on it, right? That band-aid gets soaked, let's take it off, let's put a new band-aid on it. And like, that's their entire strategy. What's going to happen? That person's going to bleed to death. Okay? You have to actually send that person to a hospital, actually get stitches and fix the damage, right? Then that person could have a chance for survival. But if you just keep putting band-aids on the problem, it's not going to fix anything. And that's what they've been doing, and it's only making things worse. Okay? A lot of people want to talk about black on black crime like it's because they're black, like that's why it happens, and it's not. Okay? As we've already mentioned, lack of social programs that actually helps people, lack of strategies that actually would reduce poverty rates, right? Those are things that would actually help. So the lack of all those with any area that has a lot of poverty is going to have a lot of crime. Okay? That has nothing to do with race. You take a white community and give them the same amount of poverty and the same amount of struggle, guess what? They're going to do the same stuff, right? It's going to be white on white violence every single day, all the time, and no one is going to report it that way, right? It's just going to be ordinary, everyday crime. It's not going to be anything related to race. I would be very surprised if it was. Okay? But when it comes to black people, all the time, when any type of crime, any type of altercation that has anything to do with black people, okay, race is usually going to be brought into it. And it is such a ridiculous thing that you could take two different crimes, one with any other race and one involving black people. The one with other races, it's not going to be about race. The one with black people, oh yeah, it's going to be about race. They're going to bring statistics into it. They're going to bring black on black violence into it. They're going to bring all these other things into it. And it's absurd. It is ridiculous. Okay? It is mostly to do with poverty. Like I said, white communities with similar amount of poverty and similar amount of struggle, they're going to be doing the same stuff. They're going to be selling drugs. They're going to be killing each other. They're going to be doing all the same stuff. So, all right, that's it for now, y'all.